All right, here we go on this rainy Wednesday. Yes. And we are, yes. There's Debbie. There's everybody. Yep. Sound should be good. I think the sound is fine. Oh, Gion's there. Here we go. Oh, I didn't realize that. So it is a rainy Wednesday, and we're going to roll with it, folks. You can see the rain outside. It's terrible. Hello, everyone. We are live right now. Good afternoon, Pat. Yep. Folks, there's nothing we can do. It's a rainy day. Won't last forever. We are live right now. There's Henry B. Hi there, Garney. And there's Heather and everyone. Folks, we're going to start. I hate this. I do hate it, but I have to address. I will. This turtle nonsense. Good afternoon, Kelly. I hate it. It's non-productive. Waste my time. But we have to address it. And I will address it coming up in just 4 minutes. Now remember, we are live on Facebook, on X, on YouTube. This ponaganset story. By the way, I can always tell some of the people that are either friends with the couple involved, because the gym teacher, she is married. I mean, but I can't control that. Thank you, Garney. And now Channel 10 and Channel 12 have jumped on our story. And I'll go through that a little bit. But folks, something that a lot of people don't understand this is, in a competitive business, there are some people that get upset when you get any type of attention. And I used to deal with this all the time down the dial, all the time. And Pork Boy would freak out every time I would be on Fox or be on, pick national television. And they're amateurs and they can't stand it. And now, I'm dealing with another situation like this. There's the gym teacher, and we're going to talk about it. And we're going to start in just 3 minutes. Thank you. Thank you very much. But I hate this because just to set up for everyone, we broke the ponaganset story on Monday night. First, that there was an investigation. Second, then we named her. It really rocketed and then really took off yesterday. And there are certain people that can see that, okay, so this story is really going somewhere. And one of the people that saw that is the little turtle creep. Now, I have stayed out of the war with him and Karen Reed. I want to be very clear. I have no interest. She did resign. I went up to Dedham to cover the trial, not the lunacy and the circus of all the people around it. There are some people that they didn't go to cover the trial. They just wanted to create a circus-like atmosphere. So, and I run a busy schedule. Yeah, that's exactly right. It also, for those that are saying, because there are people. Notice Channel 10 and Channel 12 won't name her. There are some people saying, let the state police do their job. Well, she's not fighting for a job. And as I've explained, there is solid evidence here. I don't always give up, and I'm not going to give up sources on this. But yesterday, instead of then, I was supposed to meet with someone that had even more information on this story. I had to go to the police station because the little turtle creep is committing fraudulent documents. Ridiculous. A waste of my time. Over an hour at the police station this morning. Over an hour on the phone with Massachusetts State Police. I hate it. I despise it. All right, we're going to begin. Folks, good afternoon. Yes, we are live right now on Facebook, and we're live on X, and we're live on YouTube, And obviously, we're live on AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. This portion of the program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. What a season they're having at PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Everything's fall. They have great selection, beautiful. You know, it is nice. I really have noticed people that decorate their property with beautiful mums and kale and pumpkin, straw bale, cornstalks, gourds, Indian corn, native vegetables. This is the ideal time for planting. Today, the rain that we need, stop in and see them. You can look for them on Facebook. And also homegrown vegetables. They do a fantastic job. It's PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Now, hey, listen, the Cohesive Inn, they are very valued sponsors. I had said to them, would you like to sponsor the website? And Jim, who's become a friend of mine, said, Juan, I'd love to. So DePietro.com, and I'll tell you, they're certainly getting their money's worth with what's going on with the situation in ponaganset. But the Cohesive Inn, 226 Cohesive Avenue, West Warwick, lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. Check out the chef's menu. They're waiting for you at the Cohesive Inn. And proud sponsors of DePietro.com, which, as I've talked about, folks, things right now are just exploding. When I saw the numbers on our Facebook page, which I'll post for the subscribers, but we're hitting personal bests. So with the Facebook page, over 22 million views in the last 28 days. And that's on top of what had been a personal best of 18 million views prior to that. So we're going up. We're going forward. I don't want to spend, they are Rhode Island Institution, Chuck. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I will touch on something that I had to deal with yesterday. And it's very transparent, but there's a pattern of an individual, the little turtle rat, who is a child, who is a fraud. And admittedly, there was a time with the turtle that I did think he did a good job when he defended Jerry Callahan and Kirk Minahan when that guy the guy did get them forced off WEEI. I thought it was great he went to bat with them. When I first used to see him at the first trial, I was, somewhat cool with him, but he is just going into full meltdown. And it started during the trial. He would try to sabotage my appearances on Court TV. I want to be very clear. I have nothing to do with him being banned on Court TV. During the trial, I would be on Court TV every morning and night. I was on national television this past spring more than any other person in the 401. I don't know about Massachusetts, possible, but between doing the Fox streaming and being on Court TV twice a day, and both of those, I have nothing to do with that individual being banned. But and then we try to sabotage. But you just, when you're in my position, folks, you have to, everything can't be a battle. You can't go to war with everything. And you got to pick your battles. And so there's things that happen that you let it go. But yesterday I had to deal with the turtle fraud who is at war with Karen Reed. Karen Reed is not talking to him. I stayed out of that. You can go through my timeline. I want to be very clear. I went to cover the trial, not the miscreants and the circus-like people. Nothing. I don't want anything to do with those people. I'm embarrassed they even know who I am. Nothing to do with it. But because, let me go back to August. In August, one thing that I'm very good at, in program directors I've worked with, whether it's Bill Hess or Mike Elder, or even Jason Wolf or Paul Giammarco, they will tell you I am good at picking what's the story. Not everyone has that, but I know what's the story. So in August, when the family of Kylie Montero contacted me, missing person, got the details. Hey, no one went deeper, as I call it. We flood the zone on that story than we did. And look what that story turned into. That wasn't a missing person. It was murder. He killed her, buried her on his property. And right after that, I let it go. The turtle took a shot. Oh, the family didn't want him out there. Total lie. Oh, he's running around like he. No, I was covering the first responders that were searching for it. There's nothing wrong with the coverage. If anything, we had more extensive coverage and broke more on that story than anyone. But notice, see the pattern. I'm on Court TV. The little turtle rat is not. Gets upset. I'm on Fox streaming. That's seen worldwide. There's envy. And then, like, why would you take a shot? It's because we gained a lot of traction, and that Kaylee Montero story blew up. We own that story. Dedicated every single night became coverage about that. And many of you followed that. So when Ponaganset hits, suddenly here we go. He's got nothing to talk about. Again, I hate that I have to talk about this, but I have to talk about it. Karen Reed not talking to him. Can you imagine he taped Karen Reed? The person that put him on the map taped Karen Reed. Karen Reed and I finally agree. He is a pathetic, pathological liar, of which I want nothing to do with. Zero. Nothing to do with that circus-like crowd where there was a sigh of relief when his followers arrived at the Wilbur Theater, actually walking on their hind legs, which I heard was impressive. I want nothing to do with that crowd. But anyhow, so yesterday, he created, the little turtle rat, fraudulent emails. Fraudulent emails. Not, I was wrong on the trial. Fine. I was very clear where I stood on it. I believed the case put forth by the Commonwealth. I did. Fine. The crowd booed me when I walked out of the courthouse. I still believe the evidence of it. That's fine. He's boring, whatever. I think they're all a bunch of no-tellers, him and his whole crowd. They're not original. Their version of comedy is basically one step up from a knock-knock joke, basically. The turtle, whoever some of these people are, they use all these fake names and everything else. Their idea of humor is like a whoopee cushion, But I avoid that whole. It's just like filth. It's just like a blank storm, and I don't even want to do it. But he's posting fraudulent emails that I'm the author of, and I hated it because I had to cancel the meeting that I had with someone tied to Ponaganset. Why? Because I had to go to the police, which takes up my time. It's so clear that was fabricated. I'm not going to spend much more time on it. But when someone starts, and I take issue with some of the people that were enablers, that he's this big investigator. He's not. Even Karen Reed. I never thought I'd be on the same page agreeing with Karen Reed. Karen Reed, even she said, I gave you the story. I gave it to you. I concocted a story and gave it to, even she says that. But he doesn't have anything right. He goes around and says, I was fired from WPRO in 2008. It's totally false. Like, it's so lazy false. If that was the case, how come if you Google shove it with Obama, I'm on the air in 2010 talking to Frank Caprio? How come in 2012 I was on Fox News O'Reilly talking about Link Chafee and the Christmas tree? In 2016, I was live on Fox and CNN as the MC of the only Trump rally ever held in Rhode Island, April of 2016. WPRO host. Do you understand? He is a lazy clown. Lazy clown. But you try to ignore. But when someone is creating fraudulent emails, I didn't compose any emails. I admit, the day after the trial, which was my birthday, by the way, I was exhausted. It was really upsetting. I couldn't believe what happened. For 2 hours, I was faked in believing I was talking to an alternative. 2 hours. Ever since then, I don't respond to any of this foolishness. They send me emails. Their idea of pulling a prank or catfishing is if they just send the email. Not that it's returned. Can you imagine someone like, I'm crank calling someone, and if they don't even answer, they still think that's a crank call or a prank, whatever you want to call it. So I don't even respond. But where he screwed up, because he's lazy, and he's seemingly in a lot of trouble in New Jersey. But my email is john@depetro.com. My website is depetro.com. And he puts on the correspondence at the bottom, johndepetro.com, of which I've never used and have never used. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you. No, he does not. I love that. Let's see if the YouTube crowd will step up. That's right. No. And by the way, listen, the O'Keefes, I'm not going to get into the full thing. The O'Keefes have an attorney. How would he have an attorney? Thank you, Lisa. How would he have an attorney? How would he have an email that I sent to Hank Brennan? I've never sent an email to Hank Brennan. I've never sent an email to Hank Brennan. I've never sent an email or corresponded with anyone pertaining to Hank Brennan. So he concocts a fraudulent email designed to try to enrich himself, which is trying to obtain money under false pretenses, which is a crime. At least according to the Massachusetts State Police, it's a crime. Basically saying that I was contacting Hank Brennan on behalf of the O'Keefes and the McCabe family. That never happened. There was no email. I don't even write. My friends were laughing. I don't write long emails. There's another email has where I'm mentioning Grant. Nothing against the towel. I wouldn't mention something like that. It doesn't even read like me. Anyone that deals with me knows I'm Mr. Abbreviation. Thumbs up. You know, my response in an email is received. Sounds good. So he concocted a fraudulent email. He actually, the Turtle Rat, concocted a fraudulent document saying that I'm asking Hank Brennan on behalf of the O'Keefes. They have an attorney. I wouldn't do that. The McCabes have an attorney. I wouldn't do that. And we need to put him in prison for life. He did that as a means of a fundraiser for himself, trying to obtain money under false pretenses. I never composed an email. I never sent an email. He also put sincerely. I never signed things sincerely. It's always cordially, if at all fabricated. That's the part. So here's the thing of, here's the thing that, here's the part before I move on that I just want to touch on. Okay, listen, I get it. I'm in the arena. Hey, those of you that saw when I walked out of that courthouse, and he loves to play that. Look at everyone cheering me and everyone booing him. I get that. That's part of it. That is totally part of it. Hey, you know, do you think when Drake May goes to Buffalo, he's cheered? Was Brady cheered when he would go into play? Again, no. Against the Jets? I totally get that. I accept that. You didn't hear me pouting or anything about that. No. I, of my own free will, came to the conclusions about the case I did. Court TV asked me to go on. I agreed to go on. No one forced me to go on. I accept the consequences of that. I totally accept people that question opinions that you have, mock different things like that. But I want you to understand, and even, you know, some of the followers, this is, he's creating fraudulent documents. And even as the police said, number one, we're glad you came in. It said, number two, you know, if someone does this, who's to then stop where then he's saying, oh, look, this person is communicating with, you know, a 12-year-old boy, a 10-year-old, like, you can't stop it. There's a world of difference between, I think that person's lousy. I don't care for their coverage. I disagree with their opinion. I get that. But this is creating fraudulent documents in a temper tantrum. Basically, I believe, because I broke the ponaganset story. Otherwise, I have no idea where that came from. I don't. So that's all I'm going to say about it. I could go on and on. You know, I have no idea. It could be AI generated. But and by the way, It's one of those things. It's so easy for the police. When the police, can we look at your phone? Yes. Can we go through your phone? Yes. Can we go through the account? Yeah. The police very quickly can see, okay, that was not sent from this email account. So it's so easy to prove. One last note about the little turtle rat, and that is so he apparently, no, not apparently, he recorded Karen Reed without her permission. And Rhode Island is a one-party consent state. What does that mean? In Rhode Island, one person can record, and you don't need the permission from the other person. Massachusetts is an all-party consent. So if you're recording 3 people in a conversation, 2 people in a conversation, all parties must consent to it. So as transparent and pathetic as it is, the turtle has now announced his defense is going to be that he was in Rhode Island. I love Woonsocket. I love Providence. He was in Rhode Island when he recorded Karen Reed, therefore probably thinking she can't prove where I was when I recorded her. I can imagine. And then therefore thinks that's his way out of recording her. Listen, I don't know. That's between them. As I've stated, I have no interest in that. It is, I stay out of that. It's the sewer. It's so like scum. It's all bottom feeders. It's a world of fake names and fake accounts and fake identities, and then they're all fighting. And listen, I go on television using my name. I am on the radio using my name and identity, and on my Facebook page, and on my TikTok page, and on my Instagram page, and on my YouTube page, of which are all rocketing right now. So I avoid that. But just to be very clear, I initially was going to ignore it, but then if you ignore it, they perceive it as, oh, then it's okay to do it. And it's not okay to do it. So I'll just say this to the individuals that were trying to, enable him. There's this NPR reporter that they used to put me on with her on Court TV, and she was just insufferable. Yeah, Turtle, he's like at NPR, he's like a brilliant investigator. We were talking about it at Starbucks. Her name is Rebecca Lavoie, and it's NPR, New Hampshire, and Aiden is really complete a caricature of an NPR type person. But they would build him up. They believed all that nonsense. All of those buffoons outside the friggin' courthouse. Oh, no, I was right. It's such foolishness. I have no interest in that crowd. This occupies my valuable time. I don't have time to deal with this. It's used as a distraction. It's childish. It's also criminal. You can't fraudulently create an email and present it. Oh, look who I never. Categorically denied. And they know it. It even was exposed. I didn't watch it. I had someone watch it and then send me the tape of it. He said, look, it's real. It's right here. Let's click on johndepetro.com. You click on it. It goes to this domain is faithful. He's just an idiot. I don't know how else to explain it. He's an idiot. Oh, my God. They are low IQ hag bags. I'll also say this. So I like how I say, I'm just going to quickly address it and move on. Listen, he likes to point out that one time outside the courthouse, I had on baggy pants. I wasn't going to address this, but I'll tell you the level you're talking about. I don't expect everyone to know my personal life, but I had cancer surgery, and there was some scar tissue that was left from where the incision was, and it formed a little, how would you describe, like a little lump. Now, at first, I was wildly paranoid, like, oh my God, it's a tumor, like a tumor. You go to the doctor, they check you out. No, you are cancer free. And the doctor said, listen, in time, that'll probably go down. Just a little scar tissue from the incision. If I were you, I would maybe just wear loose pants just so it's not on top of it. It wasn't painful, but I was just so paranoid about it. He actually makes a big deal. The one time outside the courthouse, I had on loose pants because of the incision from the cancer surgery. Like, do you understand? This is someone, there's no redeeming qualities of this individual. None. Pathological liar. Totally invents and fabricates things. Like, who does that? I don't associate with people like that. I don't obviously hang around with people like that. Yes, I know. So I have no idea. All right, let's move on with the program. So I think I've covered everything for now. Now we're going to get to the main event, which is the latest with Ponaganset High School. And it's not good news. And to give you an example, I'll tell you how things work, and I'll tell you why news stations are not identifying this individual. But let me stay on schedule here, folks. With Propane Plus, call them today. The propane leader in Rhode Island, 401-885-4209. In Massachusetts, 508-252-3359 for Propane Plus. There's their website. They're available 24/7. Heating and cooling, you can depend on Propane Plus. 508-252-3359 or in Rhode Island, 401-885-4209 for Propane Plus. Now, let me actually do another one since I went a little long. I hate that. I hate the stuff that it's an interruption. There's nothing gained by it. It totally takes up time, but you have to deal with it. I do, this isn't a matter of can't stand the heat, stay out of the kitchen or some of that stuff. When people start creating fraudulent documents, they have to be addressed, and we'll see where it goes. And I said to the police, I'll cooperate any way you need me to cooperate. Folks, Watson Materials, call them today, 401-885-0600. Remember, call Sean, request a quote with Watson Materials, 401-885-0600. Now, they have landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, cobblestone, decorative stone. Watson Materials, 401-885-0600. So, as many of you know, and we do have an update on our website, which is depetro.com. Unfortunately, I did hear that. Now, see, I want to point this out. So this is the gym teacher who was grinding at the victim at the senior prom. She even wore stuff to match his outfit. Everyone was talking about it. Teachers were watching. Now, if you check depetro.com, I have heard now from parents. I have heard from former students. I've heard from parents of current students, as a matter of fact. And so the latest update that we have is the school administration. They had a hearing last night, and they're basically trying to say that, we were totally unaware. I am hearing from parents that complained about the actions of the teacher. And again, you can read about it. We do have an update, and it is a bombshell because the administration is pretending that they had no idea that this was going on. But that's not what I have been told, and that's not what we're reporting. You had one parent that approached a school administrator about her behavior and the way she would purposely grind her behind almost in lap dance fashion to some of the boys. She liked seeing them become aroused, which is not difficult for a 15 and 16-year-old boy, 17, same. So in the administrator told the parent something akin to, I don't know and I don't want to know. Well, that's unsatisfactory. What you need to know, and that we have reported. See, here we go. See, this is all fake. This is all fake. All fake. This is a turtle person. All fake. See, they believe it. Completely false. Never happened. See, he does have his followers out there. Ridiculous. Look at that. After the whole thing I went through. So, but what you need to know is people were going to the administration and they were, yeah, definitely troll alert. So that's okay. We have it. We can handle it. But there were people saying things. There was a female student. Her mother reached out to me. So I spoke with the mother and the girl. And the girl, who's a student, said to one of her teachers of, like, how come no one's doing anything? This seems very odd about Mrs. Crins and some of the teenage boys of, first of all, and I know the Ponaganset principal, superintendent, the assistant principal, they're not addressing it, but it should be, there should be no reason for a teacher in this day and age to be hugging students. She was very touchy with the boys. She would hug the boys. She would hug them and then take inappropriate selfies. She would stand in front of them purposely and then put her behind and start rocking back and forth against them just for the thrill of causing, for the individual to become, the teenage boy to become aroused. You have a problem. You have a problem at Ponaganset High School. Some people have said, look into the assistant principal left 2 years ago. I have no idea about that. Other people have talked. I'm talking about this story, this case, and as of right now, Channel 10 and Channel 12 are not naming the teacher, Alicia Crins, that we have. So now there's more info. I don't want to put any false information. The other gym teacher would also flirt. See, I've heard that, Chelsea. I have absolutely heard that from people. So, but what I've heard is the teachers union has reached out to the rest of the media and the television stations and told them, we are hoping we can count on your cooperation in not naming the gym teacher. So in not naming her. Now, I also want to be very clear with people. Of course, these are very serious allegations. And I don't understand some of the comments. Some guy put today, I could tell you're walking back the story. Channel 10 and Channel 12 are jumping on the story. And as more details come out, the story's getting bigger, not smaller. I don't understand. I don't. Walking back the story? No. What stood out to me in a story like this, because many times when someone's making accusations, I want you to know this. I will say to the person, I need to see some real hard evidence, right? There are people that talk about, that there's corruption somewhere. And I will say, I need to see some documents. I need to see some internal documents. I need to see some proof. So with this particular case, state police are in possession of hard evidence, so to speak. The Rhode Island State Police are in possession of videos and photos. And the videos and photos go back to, look at that. She was my gym teacher. I graduated 2023. She was like this even back then, before that started my sophomore year. Tell us more. Tell us more, Dakota. She was like that. See, I know. I do as well. I do as well. However, I do as well. But I'll tell you, Stephen, because I've heard from a number of his friends. I have, and I'll even say I know him. I feel bad for him. I do. But this is, let me tell you, this is not an allegation. This is she resigned. And I want to be very clear with people. Like, there are people, they just distort things. They have a view, and then they try to invent a narrative to match that view. And the narrative that some of either his friends or her friends or some of the teachers union people are trying to say is, these are just allegations. I can't believe this, and what they're doing to this poor girl and this poor woman and her poor family and blah, blah, blah. Listen, what do we know? Let's go with the facts. She resigned. You don't resign unless something that the state police are investigating, and the state police are in possession of hard evidence. That's what we're talking about. So those of you that are out there, this, what is this? None of this should be public. Let this, these are the same people. Look at that. She does have her own kids. Very hands-on, flirting with them since day one. Wow. I've heard that. And she does have children. But let me tell you what this is about. Excuse me. This is about the children at the school. This is about the ponaganset administrators letting down those children. It is so gutless to hear administrators, and I have their names on our website. When you're a teacher or you're a school administrator, principal or vice principal, you can't become Sergeant Schultz. You can't become, I know nothing, I see nothing. You can't take the attitude, ponaganset. You can't take the attitude of, I don't know and I don't want to know. Now, another mother told me, and again, this is all on DePietro.com, that a mother overheard her son and some of the players on a certain sports team talking about the teacher and claiming that one of the students had engaged in some element of a sexual relationship. So the mother mentioned it was either a coach or a school administrator or both. And from what I understand, according to this mother, the response was, you know how kids just talk. That's not innocent kids talk. That is not innocent kids talk. No. If that is being said, that needs to be investigated. So let me just explain. And folks, do you see the pattern? The pattern of North Kingstown. I'll tell you, there's no profiles in courage at Ponaganset High School. There's no profile. You have a responsibility. When you're an administrator, you're a school administrator, you're in a position of authority, you can't take the attitude of see no evil, hear no evil. I know Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing. I see nothing. I don't know, and I don't want to. No, if you're a teacher and a female student says, I think there's something going on and there's something odd the way Miss Krins, conducts herself with a lot of the boys, you can't take the attitude of, I'm not saying you call the police. I'm not suggesting, I'm saying there should be a process. And conversely, let's think about the teachers right now. There could be a teacher that some allegation is made and it's false, And there should be, let the system play out and a proper investigation. No one's talking about rush to judgment. No one's talking, but what you can't do is just ignore it. I believe most teachers will tell you that. I would even argue you have an obligation to report that. If you're a coach, and I have coached, and you want to make sure you're never, they go through the whole thing. BCI check, don't put yourself alone with a child, don't put, granted, I always had a child on the team, so not that we ever had to give a child a ride home, but if we did, they sit in the back seat. Your child sits in the front seat. When I have coached both basketball and soccer, you have a female assistant coach. They could be, thank you, yes, they could be in the locker room with them. And I remember at the training you go through as coaches, they talk about this is for your protection. I remember when North Kingstown story broke, and we were talking to Dan McGowan on the Boston Globe, and he talked about a Little League coach, and he was waiting at the field, and there was a child waiting for their parent to pick them up, and it started raining. And Dan McGowan, knowing the rules, he had the little boy on the Little League team, sit in the vehicle, and he stood outside. But you do that for your own protection. We've talked about this in North Kingstown. The whole, thank you, William. I'd love to see more of that from our YouTube family. We talked about, that's why the North Kingstown thing was so egregious, is the guys in a classroom in a dark closet, and the young boy is getting naked, and he's kneeling beneath the young boy, and they were young boys. And it's so off the charts. But my point is, just to sum this up, number one, the media should not follow the dictate of the teachers union. Don't name the teacher. Oh, okay. Wrong. And I don't do this. There's a lot of things I hear different from people, and we don't go with it. Anyone that knows this story, there's certainly confirmation. There are people that know the family that have certainly confirmed things, the state police, the resignation, the whole thing. But what really jumps out is, in all of these situations, in North Kingstown, teachers and coaches that looked the other way, they had a larger obligation to those students to do something. And as far as this situation, that's exactly right. This situation in Ponaganset or Ponaganset, and I also want to address, listen, I'm a fan of the New York Post, and the crew that helps me with DePietro.com, they're also fans of the New York Post. Listen, I know it's not for everybody, but I love the New York Post, and I think their headlines are hilarious. So that's why occasionally, not all the time, but we come up with things, and admittedly, I don't come up with them because my brain just doesn't think that way. But I'll say to, the staff and people that help us, if you have a good headline, share. And they came up with Ponaganset High School or Ponaganset High School. Listen, I think it's clever. When I see the New York Post headlines, I don't think that's disgraceful. I can't stand the parochial Rhode Island attitude, which is so small time. I can't. Admittedly, I lived in New York City for 9 years. I loved it. I have a child living in New York now. I like the New York Post. If you don't like that, so I like the people that get the humor of the headline, Ponaganset High School. We think it's funny. I think it is funny. I think news can be funny. I love the New York Post stuff. I think it's great. The tabloids in Britain do the same thing. It doesn't mean the story's wrong. They just put a different twist to it. But if you don't like that, scram. Then I don't get these people. Scroll past. Yes, Ponaganset. Thank you, Henry B. That was a huge headline by the crew at DePietro.com. Thank you, Henry B. All right, let me get to Serve Pro, because remember, you're going to have an emergency and you don't know. Suddenly you have a fire or you have a flood. Serve Pro of Providence. Call them today, 401-941-5500. You can depend on Serve Pro. Fast, thorough, professional. Serve Pro of Providence, 401-941-5500. So maybe if you have a fire, you have smoke damage, you have water damage, you have fire damage, you have mold. Serve Pro of Providence, 401-941-5500. Now, I want to stay on track, and let me also mention, let's remove that. We'll move that, and let me go to, yes, this is not commercial. Bro, another commercial. Yes, there are. We have sponsors. Thank God. Thank God we do. I want to, again, if I am totally fine, if there's anyone that's listening and you don't like our brand, scroll past. Scroll past. I don't get it. You know how much time I spend watching MSNBC? Zero. None. I don't watch them and go to their website and leave comments. So scram. No, what part? No hag bags allowed. Beat it. If you don't like the content, no one is forcing you to watch it. Oh, these people, these pea brains. But little by little, admittedly, we do get rid of them. That's why I don't mind sometimes. We thin the herd, right? Sometimes there's a story. Boy, with the Bad Bunny stuff, we certainly were able to thin the herd a lot. Certain stories we can. And as far as, like I talked about earlier, I have a pretty good sense of, yes, teleprompter boy. That's a whole nother thing. Oh, God, lawsuits, court, police. Don't you understand? This stuff is it soaks up time. Who has time for this stuff? Let me tell you, I'll tell you where you should make the time. You should make the time for J. Perry Paving. Call them 401-732-1730. Why not get your driveway paved before the winter? J. Perry Paving, 401-732-1730. At least call them, request a free quote, J. Perry Paving, 401-732-1730. Remember, no one has a better package for veterans than J. Perry Paving. Call them, 401-732-1730. I want to touch on that. That's interesting that someone is putting that, but I understand people join at different times. Sue for the email hoax. Well, it goes beyond that. That's actually a crime. That's a fraudulent document. That is impersonating someone. So it goes beyond, lawsuits and so forth like that. This is criminal that we're talking about. But now, in the radio show, I played Attorney General Pam Bondi swatting away Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. As I have said, the guy just continues to do the state so much damage. He does not serve any purpose. He is only there to appeal to Rachel Maddow, Rhode Island Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. How about Pam Bondi pulled out on the fact that the wife they have made millions that he has directed federal funds to her no-show job. And her no-show job was, again, as I've talked about, she was working for a company, and then they thought, well, wait a minute, it's going to look bad if people want to see her time records. And she doesn't show up from Memorial Day to Labor Day because she's at Bailey's Beach Club in Newport every day. So then they came up with the scheme of let's make her a consultant, Sandra Whitehouse. That way no one can say, hey, she hasn't been in the office all summer. But him going after the Attorney General? What purpose? I'm waiting for one representative from Rhode Island or Mass, for that matter, to actually do something that's going to benefit their states. Because it's not. It's all Democrat attack dogs. It's all Democrat attack dogs that are just there to appease the MSNBC crowd, to appease the progressives. And he starts going after, he's not looking for information. He's looking to raise money. He's looking to score points with Rachel Maddow. He's looking to be featured on MSNBC. This guy, I am telling you right now, he is absolutely a catastrophe for the state and serves no just firing and tricky questions and stuff that has nothing to do with what's going on. Zero. So now I also want to give a credit. Patricia Morgan did run against him. Patricia Morgan, she tried to take him out, came out, she was unsuccessful, but at the very least, she did try to knock him off. But that video, of which, the Rhode Island media, they're all high-fang Sheldon White House on the Washington delegation. They think it's a big deal. They think that he's doing something like, isn't that great? Look at the way he's standing up. Look at the way he's standing up to to Attorney General Pam Bondi. I think it's disgraceful. I also want to note, you can tell the stories the media likes, the stories they don't like. You can certainly see that the local media, this was featured in the New York Post, that Barrington teacher. Now, the teachers union, they're arguing they don't want him terminated. And they're going to try to bring him back as he's making jokes about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I think it's a good eye-opener for people when they start to realize that they're not there. The teachers union, they do not serve a purpose of trying to improve education. They're not there for the student. They're not there for the parents. They're there to have as many members as possible and try to grab as much money as possible from the taxpayers. Period. End of story. That is the goal, and no other goal. No other goal. So in regards to ponaganset, we're getting more information. Could the media name? Of course the media could name the teacher. It's ridiculous. They did the same thing in Barrington. In Barrington, they did the same thing. The district hasn't named the teacher. Well, that's by design. The teachers union have it in their contract that if anything goes wrong, the district and the school committee will not name the member of the teachers union in question. It's all by design. And then when something like this hits, they go to the media and remind them, we're not going to name the teacher involved, and remind them of that. Oh, that's right. We're not naming her. Well, we named her. We named her. And it is everywhere. It is everywhere. So we're going to follow this story out. This story is still, I would say, I don't know if it's still in the first inning. I'm going to say it's in the second inning. It's in the second inning. And granted, listen, let me say this about this teacher. If she, and this, I want to be really clear about this. Let's just say she was accused and there was no evidence to support this. I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't have gone with the story. I would not have. What flipped me on this was, number one, not even that she did resign, state police investigating, but what locked me in on it were sources that I trust that confirmed for me that there was an iPad full of evidence. So, and I want to be very clear, if we didn't take it lightly, this was not based on rumor, not publishing someone's name, destroys their career, destroys their name, not doing something like that. If she was still teaching there, if she if she said this never happened, would not publish it. She said, listen, I'm on leave, but I'm going to fight this because none of this is true. I don't think we're going with it. I don't think so. But on this, the story is solid. The story that we posted Monday night is solid. The story we posted yesterday is solid. The story we posted today is solid. So I have no doubt about that. I know it's uncomfortable. Yep. I know it's uncomfortable. That's right. Yeah, they won't name him. They will not name him. Isn't that is ludicrous? You know, and Justin Katz and I talk about that. What happened to the big TV investigators? Let me give you a heads up. If it was the other way around, if it was let's say it was that a prominent Democrat activist was killed by, let's just say, like a Trump supporter or something. Do you mean to tell me that our local media would not? I don't believe that. No, I don't believe that in any way. No, they would find a way to name. No one will convince me. By the way, I forgot about this guy too. Remember, that's the school bus guy. Boy, Barrington has had a run. I forgot about him. He was the school bus monitor. Lives in Rehoboth, I believe. Yes, if I remember the story. But this teacher doesn't have. They decided, no, we're not going to name him. And there's a pattern there. But I am telling you, this stems from. This is an example of the power of the teachers union. Is that the great Chris Moran? This is the power of the teachers union. Telling our local media we're not going with the story. Don't name, Ben. Don't name Alicia. No, we're not naming people here. I think it's wrong. Folks, this portion of our program. Hey, call Corey to get your garage epoxied with quality asphalt seal coating. Call them today. What a difference it makes for your garage, but you have to get it done before wintertime. So get on the list. 401-283-9815. There's the number on the screen. He will epoxy your garage or patio, decorative concrete flooring. Call Corey today. Free estimate. They could also resurface a basketball court, a pickleball court, a tennis court. Quality asphalt. Epoxy garages and patios, though. Makes a huge difference, but now is the time to get on the list. Call Corey. Free estimate, 401-283-9815. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned for the 2 o'clock news. As far as later on, I don't know. We're going to leave it up in the air. We may be out, we may not. In the meantime, stay dry on this Wednesday.